Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be taking a look at some of the Social Security changes coming up in 2025, whether you're, getting ready to retire yourself, maybe you got family depending on benefits, or hey, maybe you just want to stay on top of your finances. This deep dive's for you. We've got some research here and might have a few surprises in store for you.
Yeah, definitely. It's important to be aware of these updates no matter where you are in your retirement journey. There might even be a few things in here that'll impact how you're planning for the future.
Well, let's kick things off with the cost of living adjustment. Everyone knows it as the COLA.
Mm.
And it's set for a 2.5% increase in 2025. So let's break that down a little. If your average monthly benefit was about $1,925 in 2024, that means you'd see a bump up to around $1,974 per month in 2025.
And while that might not seem like a huge jump at first, these regular adjustments are really key to making sure your benefits hold their value as prices keep rising. I mean, think about it, trying to buy the same groceries or pay your bills with a fixed income when everything's getting more expensive. This adjustment helps to keep pace with those real-world costs.
Now, I know the benefit calculation formula can seem kind of intimidating, but it is worth understanding the basics. The formula itself is staying the same in 2025, but some important figures within it, what they call bend points, are getting tweaked.
Okay, so think of it this way. You've got your average monthly income from your working years, right? So the formula takes 90% of the first $1,226 of that income. Then for anything between $1,226 and $7,391, it applies 32%. And finally, for any income above $7,391, it uses 15%. So those income thresholds, those are the bend points, and updating them makes sure the calculation stays accurate as inflation affects earnings over time.
So even though the way Social Security calculates benefits isn't actually changing, those updated numbers basically make sure the system keeps up with the times. It definitely makes you think about how those changes might affect your own benefits down the line.
It does, and it really highlights why it's so important to stay informed about these adjustments, even if retirement still feels like it's way off in the future.
All right, so let's get to the part everyone loves talking about, the maximum benefit amounts. You know those figures you might daydream about while you're picturing that perfect retirement? Well, hold on tight because they're going up in 2025.
So if you're reaching your full retirement age, which is usually somewhere between 66 and 67, depending on when you were born, the maximum you can receive each month is increasing to $3,918.
And if you decide to wait to claim your benefits until you turn 70, that monthly check climbs all the way up to $4,995. That's a pretty big difference.
It is. Yeah. And even if you're not planning to retire at exactly those ages, these numbers are good benchmarks to keep in mind when you're planning for retirement. It really shows you the potential impact of delaying your claim, even if it's just for a few years.
Now, up next, we've got a change that affects both people working now and those who will retire in the future. It's the contribution to benefit base,
Yeah,
and it's kind of a two-sided coin.
that's right. In 2025, the maximum earnings that are subject to Social Security taxes, it's called the contribution base. Well, that's increasing from $168,600 to $176,100. So for anyone earning more than that, a bigger chunk of their income will be subject to the 6.2% Social Security tax.
So on the one hand, some workers might see a little less take-home pay because more is going towards Social Security. But then again, those folks could potentially see a boost in their eventual benefit amount because of how it all gets calculated.
Exactly. It's all about looking at those long-term implications and understanding how these changes affect different people in different ways.
All right, so we've laid out some of the big Social Security changes, but now let's zoom out a bit and think about the bigger picture. It's one thing to know the numbers, but it's another to really grasp what they mean in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. And one of the biggest factors we got to consider is inflation. We're all dealing with it every day, right at the grocery store when we fill up the tank. It seems like it's everywhere. And, it's this force that just keeps pushing prices higher. And that's exactly why Social Security has to adjust to make sure those benefits keep pace. Because if it didn't, retirees could see their purchasing power just eroded away. And that safety net wouldn't be nearly as effective.
Right, so the 2.5% COLA increase that we talked about, it's meant to counter that, but I've heard some people say that it might not be enough to really offset those rising costs. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a legitimate concern for sure. Inflation is a complicated beast, and trying to predict exactly what it's going to do in the future is, well, it's not an exact science. So while the COLA is designed to keep up, there's always a chance that it might fall short, especially if we get hit with some unexpected price spikes.
Okay, so what does that mean for people who are, getting close to retirement? Should they be freaking out?
I'd say freaking out is never a good financial strategy. The key is to be proactive. right? If you're worried about how inflation might impact your retirement, it's smart to think about other financial strategies that can work alongside your Social Security benefits. So that might mean diversifying your investments, maybe exploring part-time work options, or even downsizing your living expenses if that's something you're able to do.
So basically, it's all about having a backup plan or maybe even a few backup plans just in case.
Yeah, exactly. It's about spreading the risk, not putting all your eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Makes sense. Earlier, we mentioned that increase to the contribution base, which means some workers are going to see a bit more taken out of their paychecks for Social Security taxes. But beyond how that affects individuals, what are the broader implications of this change for the workforce as a whole?
Well, first of all, it means there's a potential for more money coming into the Social Security program. And that's crucial because, like we talked about earlier, the system has to be able to adapt to things like shifting demographics and changing economic conditions. It all comes down to making sure that it's sustainable over the long haul.
So it's like we're all pitching in to this shared pot that'll hopefully be there when we need it.
That's a great way to think about it. It's a collective effort to create that safety net for current and future retirees. And, on the bright side, those increased contributions could lead to bigger benefits down the road. So it's actually a win for workers in the long run.
But what about those folks who are just starting out in their careers? Why should they be paying attention to these Social Security changes when retirement seems like a lifetime away?
I get that question all the time. And the truth is, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to finances. So even if retirement feels far off, understanding these changes now can help you make smarter financial decisions today.
Like having a roadmap for the long journey ahead.
Exactly. Plus, it's not just about you. These changes also affect your family members, whether they're already getting benefits or will be someday. So being informed lets you have those important conversations with them and maybe even help them navigate their own financial paths.
It really is all interconnected, isn't it? Our personal finances, the economy, the choices we make today, it all ripples out and shapes the future.
You got it. And that's why it's so important to stay engaged in these conversations, to participate, and to make informed decisions that really align with your values and your goals.
Well, speaking of informed decisions, I think it's time we moved on to some practical strategies for dealing with these Social Security changes.
Sounds good to me. Let's equip our listeners with the tools they need to make the most of these adjustments.
Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, but now let's get down to brass tacks. What are some things listeners can actually do to make these Social Security changes work for them?
Well, the first thing I always suggest is taking a good look at your Social Security statement. You can find it online on the Social Security Administration's website. It's kind of like a personalized financial report card, showing your earnings history, estimated benefits, even some potential claiming strategies.
So it's almost like a sneak peek into your retirement future.
Exactly. And once you've got that clear picture in front of you, you can start making smarter decisions. For example, if you're thinking about delaying retirement to get those bigger monthly checks, your statement can help you figure out the numbers and weigh the pros and cons.
So let's say someone's getting close to retirement and they're trying to decide when the best time to start claiming those benefits would be. What sorts of things should they be thinking about?
Well, it's a big decision, and there's no magic answer that works for everyone. A few key things to consider are your overall health and how long you expect to live. Also, your financial needs and resources. And even your current work situation. Like for someone who's in good health and has a solid financial foundation, delaying retirement to max out those monthly benefits might be a smart move.
But what if someone needs to start getting those benefits sooner rather than later?
Well, in that case, careful planning and budgeting are super important. You really want to understand how claiming early affects your benefit amount and how that fits into your overall financial plan. But remember, you don't have to figure this out alone. There are resources out there to help you navigate these decisions. Things like financial advisors or even the free counseling services that the Social Security Administration offers.
So it sounds like finding that sweet spot, the right balance between your own situation and your financial goals. That's the key.
Absolutely. And remember, we're all different. What works for one person might not be the best strategy for someone else.
Now let's switch gears for a second. Talk to those folks who are still early in their careers. What advice would you give them about these Social Security changes?
I'd say stay informed and stay engaged. Keep track of those contribution-based increases and how they might affect your take-home pay. And even though retirement might seem ages away, it's never too early to start planning and saving.
Kind of like building a solid financial foundation, one brick at a time.
That's a great way to put it. And never underestimate the power of compound interest. Even small contributions you make early on can really add up over time.
We've covered a lot of ground today, but as we wrap things up, is there anything else you want our listeners to remember about these Social Security changes?
I think the most important thing is to stay in the loop. The Social Security Administration's website is a goldmine of information, and there are tons of other reliable financial resources out there, both online and in your own community.
And of course, don't be afraid to reach out to a professional if you need help. Financial advisors and retirement planners can help you create a plan that's tailored to your specific needs and navigate those trickier decisions.
Couldn't agree more. It's all about arming yourself with knowledge and making choices that align with your own goals. Remember, these Social Security changes are meant to keep up with our ever changing economy and make sure the program is around for the long haul.
Well said. So as we close out this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from all of this?
I'd say embrace that proactive mindset. Don't let these changes catch you off guard. Take the time to understand them, explore your options, and create a plan that sets you up for the future you want.
Great advice. And with that, we'll wrap up our exploration of Social Security changes coming in 2025. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And remember, knowledge is power when it comes to securing your financial well-being.